Hello, my friends. I'm Jacob Nordby, and it's been a minute since I've done a update this way. I often look up during a week and realize how much of that week has already gone, how much of that month is gone, and here we are coming right up to halfway through this year. And wow, what a fast river life is right now. I'm not sure for you, but for me, it feels that way, and in many ways, in really good ways. Also, that requires a fair amount of attention to not get out of balance. Over the holiday weekend here in the US, we had the Memorial Day weekend, and um, I was enjoying the nice weather that we suddenly started to have. And then my inner self asked me for a pajama day on Saturday, and I spent most of the day inside and resting. And I'm so glad to say that paying attention a little bit there has helped me recharge some of those deep batteries that can get depleted and then hard to replenish. So I'm paying a little more attention to that these days. I have a couple of reasons for coming to you. First of all, I am so excited to say that we have this Writers Rising retreat coming up this October in Hollywood, and it is full and getting fuller of amazing presenters, people like Annie Lamott and Cheryl Strayed is new for us this year. Marlon James, those of you who read fantasy are probably familiar with his work and his name. Gay and Katie Hendricks, my friend Heather Ashamara, and really quite a few are coming onto the roster now. So we're finalizing the program and moving it forward. But at the end of this update, I have a short clip from people who attended last year talking about what they've gained from their own experience. And I'd love you to see that because for me, that's the entire proof. For me, lining up a bunch of wonderful celebrity teachers and putting it in a wonderful location does not carry the day. What carries the day is if people come to these things, see themselves as genuine creatives, as real writers, and then begin to take action based on that new understanding of who they really are. And that really has been my mission in life for the last 15 years is this process of discovery. Who am I? And then as we go below the surface of those old masks, like a paper mache mask, made of all these layers of survival strategies and ways we cope with the world and a personality that we developed from a very early age that says, this is who I am. And finding out later, there's so much more to me than survival strategies and coping mechanisms. And so for me, that's a intense process. It's a worthwhile process. It's kind of like an archaeology dig, like it requires a lot of patience and not knowing exactly what the shape of this creature is in the process, but being willing to dig. And then the second phase is accept, like accept that person I'm discovering and accept the ways that I distorted that person down through the years, accept that and love it and go, okay, I did that because I was um, in survival mode. I did that because I didn't know better. And so I can begin to gently start moving, my life, my behavior, the way I think and feel. I can begin moving it more and more in the direction of this is my natural self. And this natural self, part of that acceptance process is saying this natural self of mine that I'm discovering under all these layers is worthwhile. It's valuable. It's treasure. It is my true genius in the world. And none of us who goes on that adventure of discovery needs to then come out of it saying, I am a genius. But just know that what you have in there, your particular winding of experiences and what you came into this life with, and all of the different things you've learned, the skills you've gained, and all of it is part of this creature you now are. And as you learn who you really are in the middle of that, and then begin to more and more be curious about, ooh, if that's who I am, how would that self behave And what would that self love? And what would that self want to dream about and take action toward that I never gave myself permission to do in the past, you know? Or I felt like it was off limits for me, or felt like I was too old, or I wasn't handsome or pretty enough, or smart enough, or whatever it is, you know, begin to love the entire process. And then as this happens, the third step is express. So we begin to express from that self. And when I say express, sometimes we think of sing or write or something like that. And those are certainly expressions. What I'm talking about when I say express is our behavior, also our thoughts, also sort of our whole existence becomes this expression of who we really are, this authentic self. And so for me, this is such a crucial thing. Um, if we care about staying alive inside of life, you know, if we are really okay with settling into kind of this zone of, you know, I'm good enough at these things and I'm getting enough out of life to be okay with this, with just this, then that's perfect. You know, that's great. When I say it's perfect, it means that I don't have an agenda to make people go on some sort of journey of discovery to go all the way through this because it can be intense and it can be confusing at times as we begin to peel those layers back and find out who this creature is. And I'm reminded of the power of small steps. You know, James Clear talks about it a lot with Atomic Habits, and I talk about it in The Creative Cure as micro choices, tiny steps forward. My friend Paul Boynton talks about it and begin with, yes, tiny, tiny steps forward. And I happen to be right in the middle of Julia Cameron's program called The Artist's Way. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. I'm in week 8 right now, and I love the process. I'm returning to this after 15 years away. I first did it when I was going through the complete meltdown and breakthrough and all the things that led to so much self-discovery, and then finding my feet eventually on a path that felt true to me, the path with heart, you know. But I wanted to read you something she said in here. She said, what I'm saying is that work begets work. Small actions lead us to the larger movements in our creative lives. Small actions lead us to the larger movements in our creative lives. And she says, creativity requires activity. And this is not good news to most of us. It makes us responsible, and we tend to hate that. You mean I have to do something in order to feel better? Well, I love the wisdom and the gentleness of the artist's way. I love the invitation into finding out, who are you? What have you dreamed about? What have you turned off or down in your life? What are you willing to turn back on or turn back up? You know, where do new boundaries, new territory need to be established inside of yourself, your time, your space? And a few weeks ago, we had the Media Fast week, which I've done again, you know, 15 years ago. And that week was profound for me at the time because I was very engaged in the news of the times. And that was back during the mortgage crisis, you know, and all the meltdown and all the things that followed that. Um, and I felt so engrossed by those stories and what was going on. I felt, you know, emotionally turbulent over it constantly. And so when I took her assignment to take a week off from the media, I discovered how much inner peace it gave me. I never went back fully to that level of media in all the years since, but you know, the last few years have been intense. And so I've noticed myself paying a lot more attention to news and then feeling, you know, anxious about it and what's going to happen and all of that. And be aware that the news media, these organizations, most of them, if not all, but most of them have a high incentive to keep you in anxiety. And let's just break down anxiety for a moment. So uncertainty engenders anxiety. So anything new is going to hit our nervous system and is going to bring up feelings of anxiety. And that's part of our survival mechanism of our bodies, of our nervous systems and our minds. It's all wired together to look for threats, to be suspicious of new experiences, um, because those things might not be safe and we just don't know yet. And so that part of our psyche goes looking for certainty. And part of that then is what we call a confirmation bias. So we go out looking for certainty, but when you combine that with our negativity bias, and I've talked about this before, but I think it's good to remember it. You combine those two biases, it means we automatically think toward negative, like where's the risk? Where's the downside? What can I protect myself from? So if we go out with that already operating, and then we have the confirmation bias, which seeks out information that will confirm its own beliefs about what's going on. So if we go out with fear, with anxiety, that's the negativity bias, rather than just viewing the experience, the event, whatever it is that we're stepping into, with curiosity and a tremendous sense of self-confidence that I know how to navigate. No matter what the sea is doing, I know how to uh, sail my ship. Some famous person said that. So all of us do it, by the way. I don't think anyone's immune from anxieties or anyone's immune completely from the confirmation and negativity biases, but we can work on it. We can create a little more space. We can create a little more awareness and notice when we're starting to spiral. Um, and when I say spiral, that doesn't always mean crawling in bed with the covers over your head for 4 days and not taking a shower. Sometimes it's just a spiral of negativity. It's like, okay, there's that. And then there's another thing that proves things are in trouble. And then there's more of that. And pretty soon we can create an entire reality around ourselves that may or may not be accurate and often isn't. And so what I've discovered for myself is taking tiny actions every day in the direction of what I've come to find is my true self's desires for the life that I wish to create and that I am creating. Tiny steps forward reduce anxiety because now we are doing something about it. Often, though, and maybe you share this with me, I have a tendency to try to eat the elephant in 2 bites rather than 10,000 bites. um, and that's counterproductive because that means there will be overwhelm. There will be the inability to process so much experience or information or whatever effectively. And so I'm learning to slow down in life, learning to make space around things, learning to respond slightly more slowly, chew my food more slowly, learn how to savor, you know. And I find that as I do this, my inner self responds, rewards me with more peace, more curiosity, more optimism, more of a sense of we can do this. So, whether you're a writer or not, I just want to share with you some of these thoughts about transformation because what I just shared with you, that process of discover, accept, and then express, those to me all fall into this Venn diagram called transformation. And as you know by now, if you've listened to me for a while, I see transformation as nothing more and also nothing less than discovering the code within you of your potential, of your genius, of your joy, of what would make you feel so satisfied if you were able to pause at the end of your lifetime and look back and say, I did it, I did it, I did it. And I didn't leave things on the table because I was afraid to take a risk. I didn't leave things on the table because I just wasn't sure if I could do them, right? So to me, that is this process of transformation where we say, all right, I need to know who I really am inside there. I need to then accept that more and more. And by the way, these things tie directly into each other. They're not a linear process that you go, okay, I'm in 4 months of discovery and 4 months of acceptance and 4 months of expression. It's very natural. It's like breathing back and forth, in and out. Um, but if you understand that and you go, okay, this process, it's like a amazing puzzle or an amazing riddle of some kind where we're going, okay, I have forgotten much of this creature, who I really am. And so I'm going to start pulling this a little thread at a time and find out who I am inside there. And then as I do that, it's so much more natural than to just accept. It's like, oh, yeah, there I am. I'm not broken. Yes, I do have these unique quirks and tweaks. And yes, I have been hurt by life at different times. And that caused me to distort myself. It caused me to contort myself, to grow in different directions other than what would be natural or even healthy for me. But as we accept how we got here, how we got this way, and also below that, the innocence and the love and the longing to stay alive inside of life and create what matters to us, you know, as we do that, then we begin to um, grow into the shape we were meant to, and that's your shape. It's not mine. It's not anyone else's. It's yours. And so to me, this is the process of a lifetime. It's so worthwhile because it begins to change even difficult days from just being difficult, horrible days into more of the question of who am I? How do I respond inside of this? Who will I be in the face of this? And then how can I heal my imagination more and more so I am not automatically creating scenarios, vivid movies that affect my body, my nervous system, and my hormones and put me in a state of fear, rejection, pain, abandonment, all those things. Um, Instead, go, that's one possibility, but it's kind of like shadows. It's not real yet, right? We're imagining it. So why can't we imagine the other side, what we would love? Imagine things working out. Imagine things solving themselves. Imagine ourselves being supported in moving toward our dreams. If we begin to do more of that, we notice how toxic it feels to automatically go in and start imagining scenes of disappointment and rejection and failure and things not working out and not being supported and all of those things. And this is not a scold to any of us because we all do it. It's a natural part of our wiring to imagine what we would not love. And as we exercise that muscle, for most of us, it's been underused since we were children. Many of us got messages early on that your imagination is not real and it's a waste of time. I'm going to give a shout out to James Doty, Dr. James Doty, who wrote Into the Magic Shop. And he just came out with a brand new book called, I was trying to see if I had it sitting here so I could hold it up, Mind Magic, the Neuroscience of Manifestation. Now, keep in mind, James Doty is an atheist. James Doty's a former neurosurgeon. James Doty heads up the Stanford Center for Compassion. I love the fact that he comes at it from such a scientific, materialistic point of view, even though I don't share that completely with him. But I appreciate that he does it because I feel like he is opening the door for so many people who have been afraid of all that fluffy creative shit or all that woo-woo shit. And so I feel like he is opening the door and saying, no, your mind is so much more powerful than you know. And you can bring into existence what it is that you would love. And I love that in this second book, he goes way below the surface and talks about our values and our motivations. And he and I had a Zoom meeting a few months ago, and he said, "Yeah, one of my challenges with things like The Secret is that so many of them stop in the shallow end, and they only appeal to people focusing on ego-driven type goals or goals or values that were handed to them by their social group or their families or their environments in some way and aren't even really their intrinsic essential motivations, goals, values. And so that's been the process of my life over the last 15 years is stripping away the things that never were mine, that I didn't actually care about, and then becoming more and more focused and aligned with the things that I do love and care about and wish to bring into existence. All right, I hope this update has given you a few things to think about, not just think about, but actually experience. Step outside and experience little tiny steps toward. If you could imagine even taking a 5-minute break, which I've now have on my calendar every morning, a 5-minute break to imagine myself in the scenes of what I am bringing into reality, right? And so I would love to hear from you if you've been having any small or large breakthroughs. I don't really think there's a size comparison issue here at all. Like that's not all that valid. To me, the tiniest things are the most crucial. That's how everything changes. That's how everything grows is in tiny, tiny stages. Um, all right, so I want you to hear from the folks who joined us last year for the writing retreat. I hope you can feel the energy of their joy, of their, in some cases, amazement that they're actually taking steps forward and moving into, who it is they are as a writer and as a person. Because to me, that energy of transformation, that energy of things changing for the better is what I live for. I live to share it. I live to experience it. And it makes me so happy to share real stories of real people with you. And I'll say that our early bird for Writers Rising, the retreat, October 25th through 27th, runs out on May 31st. And I realized that I had not sent you an update on that. So this is me making sure you know about it before the best pricing runs out. And I can't wait to tell you more about this and also everything else that's developing. I have some new leadership coming into the Heal Plus Create and Institute for Creative Living environment, which will be great because so much of my energy is right here at a writing room. But I am so happy to be seeing the pieces come together for a bunch of new offerings this fall and new people to help make sure those are handled well. So lots of love, and take a couple minutes and listen to what these folks have to say.
When I first heard about a writing room, I was having a crisis of confidence.
I'd been watching for a while and knew something new was brewing, and then a writing room was birthed, and I knew I needed that.
Been writing on the side and been like a creative on the side. Everything was on the side. My truth of who I was is on the side.
The secret to the offsides.
Immediately I was drawn to it.
I think I'm gonna do this.
I was like, I've got to go. I've got to see if I can grab that mojo again.
Attending the retreat has been like, I've been on a whirlwind since then.
I can't even begin to tell you how far I've come, actually.
At the writing retreat, whether I knew or not, it was like a seed was planted.
This is where I'm supposed to be.
I felt positively high. I felt connected to God.
Spoke my words out to other people for the first time.
Thinking about myself as a writer just became real.
How was this all included? It's such an incredible value.
I was so inspired by this retreat, and I was just like, I got to be part of this.
This is me actually becoming the secret self that I never thought anyone would want to meet.
Completely fulfilling the purpose I'm supposed to be fulfilling.
I feel like I'm getting a master's level education or certificate program.
Evie and I would return to a writer's retreat in a second.
All you have to do is show up, and then the writing will take care of yourself.
It is the best value that I've ever invested in.
You couldn't price it.
I can't put a price on that.
I think it is the greatest gift I've ever given myself.
To say it's a game changer is an understatement.
And thank you.
And I'm just very, very, very grateful for it. And I write every day now.
I'm writing every day.
I am writing every day.
I'm producing more pages than I ever have before.
I don't think I've ever written so much.
I've written a short play that I submitted to a festival, and it was a semi-finalist.
Writing more, liking what I've written more than probably going to be my entire life.
Anyone asks me about it, I talk nonstop.
That kind of brought to my mind that maybe I actually can hang with the big dogs.
Now I have over 700 subscribers on my Substack, and some people are paid. I've been published twice in Business Insider.
I feel like I found my people.
If you get the chance to go, take it.
If you're thinking about joining this group, join.
Jump in. The water is fabulous.